Welcome back, Urban Nation Radio Land. Woo! Reality Tell Your Vision episode 3 is under its way.
Yes, indeed.
Sitting here with Ashlee Henderson, CEO of DT LIBY Publishing. Filling in for Miss Currency tonight is Megan from Arson Capital. And Megan,
hello.
You have your own way to help us let it hit. Help us
give it to him. Give it a truth.
Allow us get to know Miss Henderson a little bit better, will you?
Okay, well, I have a couple questions for you, Ashlee. I think you're an amazing real model, as Josh would say, not a role model, a real model, because we don't play roles.
We don't play that shit.
But I was reading in your bio that you have lived in Italy and Germany.
Yes.
And I just wanted to know what brought you back and what were your experiences like when you were living outside of Detroit, outside of the United States?
You know what? When I think back on it, I think living in Italy, because I lived there for about 4 months, and I was volunteering, living on an army base, working with children, of course, because I've always done that. But that's probably what ruined me, to be honest. It's a completely different way of life. When I was there in the summer, everybody was on holiday. And holiday is vacation in European countries, but the whole family goes. And I thought about it and I said, everybody's not at work all day.
Yeah.
There's tons of businesses closed so that the families can have time together, right? And the country was still functioning. And so I started to think about that, and I think it impacted me graduating college and moving into working. That, working all of those hours, not being around my family, not being around my friends, having to be away for work, it changed me. It just never felt right after that.
It gave you a totally different perspective.
Absolutely.
And it helped you become the person that you are today.
Absolutely, because I love my city. I love Detroit, but we are hard workers, and sometimes we are hard workers at the expense of actually getting to live life.
So have you thought about living somewhere else permanently? Or going back to Italy?
So I actually am just now moving back to Detroit as an adult. When I graduated college, I moved to Ohio. Bowling Green. So I started out living in Bowling Green for school. Then I moved to Toledo. Then I moved to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is a very rural town, about 8 hours away from here. And then I moved back here. So I always think about, moving other places. And I think about it not being a permanent thing. You see successful people, and I think we give them a bad rap because they're able to have the resources to do certain things. But you'll see they have properties in different places, and they have homes in different places. And to me, it makes sense why you would do that, because every time I have to go through one of those snowstorms or one of these terrible winters, I'm like, I should have a house out in LA. It would be awesome.
Absolutely. You probably deserve one, too.
It's coming.
What inspired you to write children's books?
So I always loved children, and one thing that I find very unique and I appreciate about them is their ability to see the smallest things in life and be fascinated with them.
Absolutely.
And
lose track of that every day.
Absolutely. It's so easy to lose track of it. And so, anytime that I have to spend with a child, it changes my life for the better. The way that they see things is much more organic. Than we do as we get older. We stop appreciating, the little things and how things work. We lose our curiosity. And it's definitely something, it's like working out. It's like training. Yeah. You have to train yourself to remain curious and inquisitive about the things you don't know about.
Absolutely. So how important is it to you that you work with kids, and how important are youth to our future?
Immensely. We look at our lives, and even if everything goes perfect, right? And we live to we're 80, 85, we're already like 30 years into that. A child, looking at them and they're 3 and 4 and they have all of these possibilities. It's so much power in that. And the fact that we can impact them for them to achieve and do and change the way that our culture is, change the way that our communities are, change the ways that our outlooks are on life. It's an amazing thing. It's like magic to me. I think about working with children as magic.
Oh, I love that. I love it. So, Literacy Come to Life, is that something that you started personally? Can you tell us a little bit about Literacy Come to Life?
So, one thing that I'm really big on is being direct. That's one thing that I learned. And the best way to be direct, the best way to have an impact is to have one thing that you spiral everything else under, right? So literacy come to life, it actually encompasses using all the books, and it goes into organizations and the schools, anywhere that there is a group of children. And it takes the book and it allows them to become more engaged in the literacy process. From my experience and in my opinion, our view of literacy is very narrow. Yeah. And most of the time when you talk about literacy, people just think reading books. Mm-hmm. And it has to be more. It has to be more than that. Absolutely. You know, we're competing with iPads and phones and TV and just a culture that is so fast paced. It takes that imagination away from children. So literacy come to life. I go into the schools and I go to work with children and I break down different parts of the story, you know, depending on the age group.
Are these your books you're working with?
Yep. I work with all 3 titles. And so for Nico and the Trouble Bubble, for example, we actually just did an event yesterday where we did a bubble project, right? Mm-hmm. And the point was to blow big trouble bubbles, but to blow them on a table. Oh. And I'll be putting pictures up of that pretty soon. And it was just really, really cool. And it's so much that you can do, you know, with telling them a story and connecting it to the life that they live every day. Absolutely. Because one of the things that I found that's very interesting, I started out as a children's author and writing stories, right? And I was like, I'm doing research on fine motor skill development, the rate of development between toddlers versus infancy, because infants develop so much faster than toddlers. And so that's when they start to learn language development. For Thomas and me, it's Happy Tummy Hunt. We do an alphabet, and it uses alliteration and rhyming to help them build those language skills, help them build vocabulary and curiosity. And it's just endless. Even for the Adventures of the Ruler Twins, older children, 4th and 5th grade, love to do prop making, right? And we started to introduce the possibilities of different careers. Oh, well, somebody who writes the book, they're called an author. But who else is involved in the process? Oh, you like to draw pictures? An illustrator. Oh, but somebody had to put the words with the pictures. A graphic designer. Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask a question because I see something. I like to see when I see a point because I'm gonna forget. I forget a lot. Got memory loss sometimes. But it's something that caught me was that you got 2 bachelor's degrees, right?
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay, so that means that there's some debt there. I ain't gonna lie. So it means fear is gonna happen in the road. And then you said you worked at a corporation.
Yep.
What was it called? Mac and cheese? Was it mac and cheese?
Mac and cheese. Kraft.
Kraft Mac. That's some good cheese. Mac. So for you to get involved into work in this corporation setting, where I thought it would be a happy place because I like Kraft Mac and cheese. What made you leave? Was it a good paying job for getting somebody straight out of college?
It was. It was actually my second job out of college. I started out as a district manager trainee for Speedway, and even though, you know, people definitely have a perception of the individuals from Detroit, I was putting a store in Toledo at 5 points. And every store within a mile radius of my store was getting robbed because the first part of training
with guns and stuff.
Yeah, like real life guns. And I am not about that life at all. So I remember being very fearful. Being fearful, and I think that's one thing that changed in me at that point working in corporate, because I honestly went to Kraft because I was scared of getting robbed at the current job, and then I was scared of being depressed, so I looked for another job.
So you saying in this time and generation, first of all, I think that's very, very, very becoming more and more not as rare, because I know my dad said he worked somewhere for 30 years. And he said, usually you work somewhere, you're going to stay there. You ain't going to be jumping from like a basketball player, when they make fun of LeBron. Because LeBron jumped from team to team. They want somebody going to be loyal in their own way. Corporate wants loyalty. And obviously for you your resume must look bad in corporate America.
It looks really good. I've worked for the government. It looks really good.
I'm saying usually, because my dad, he always says, if I see so many, if you don't stay for there, somebody less than a year, they look at it as something negative. Right. And you flip that, it's like you was being a drug dealer. You was flipping and flipping. It's a drug dealer deal. You was flipping and flipping and flipping, and then I see you flip right back at the beginning to when you was a little kid.
Yeah.
I get back to this writing this stuff up here.
So I think that's very true as far as being versatile. But one thing I always tell young people, regardless of if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to work in corporate, I'm not telling anybody they shouldn't do that because it takes different people to make the world go round. It takes different people to make the economy succeed. So no matter what you do, you have to learn how to convey your experience in a way that somebody else understands it. I remember in positions I had before interviewing people for the job, and I would ask them, why should I hire you? They didn't know. And if they don't know, I don't know. That's a red flag for me. And so I think that's one thing that's very important for anybody to understand. Take what you're doing and understand it. Because there's 50 other people doing the same exact thing you're doing. Right. And now in our economy, the threat is different. The competition is different. And that's what I, try to explain a lot of times is that our generation, my generation, the competition has become so increasingly difficult because we have our parents competing with us who have job experience and degrees if they have degrees. But they have job experience. They have worldly experience. They know the language. They know how to work the system better than we do, right? So you have to say what makes me different? What sets me apart? What's my niche? What can I bring to this position?
So you're speaking this to people that got bachelor's. I'm graduating next week, by the way. So you're trying to tell me that I gotta find something that's beyond the mundane or beyond money. Because beyond a current job, because it may not be there next year.
Absolutely.
Are you trying to say that is this fast paced?
It's very fast paced, and I know our parents. I think it's a big breaking point between our generation and our parents because they raised us, to go to school and to graduate and to get a good job, right? And that was the guarantee. But then they started losing their jobs, right? And a lot of them didn't have degrees, My mother doesn't have a degree. My father has one, but still, they both experienced layoffs. And so then it's, well, why am I doing this? And going back to the literacy come to life workshops, that is what it's about. We have to expand the literacy and not teach children, oh, you have to read. Why? So you can go to college. Why? Well, I can't guarantee that that's going to get you a job.
You sound like Tupac. Thanks.
I think what we're doing right now is we're like reimagining what a career is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, well, go ahead, Leo.
Well, we are getting some quality knowledge and inspiration from
Absolutely.
Ashlee. We'll be right back, Urban Nation Radio.
Reality
Tell Your Vision, episode 3. Ashlee, you are killing it. We'll be right back, okay, guys?
Three's company.